All right, so quickly we'll just move on to other matters that came out of the media budget review. Let's start with the luxury vehicle tax. And Philip, you are smiling. Are you affected?
No, I'm not, fortunately. But let me put this into perspective. What is a luxury vehicle? Let me give you this example. Toyota has an offshoot called Lexus, where they are supposed to focus on the luxury part of the vehicles. So if you have, for example, a Toyota Land Cruiser V8, its luxury counterpart in Lexus is a GX 570. If you have a Honda, the luxury part or the luxury brand is the Acura. And if you have a Nissan, the luxury brand is the Infiniti. So if somebody is driving a Toyota Land Cruiser, in Ghana, we will consider that as luxury.
But hasn't the government said 3.0 latest? They define...
Yes, they have defined it, but somebody might have a car with a 3.0 and may
so
not
we're showing some examples of the vehicles you're talking about.
And may not necessarily be a luxury car. Because in the States, an off-roader, Tundra, Fords, they are rugged vehicles. I don't think somebody would consider that as luxury, but the engine capacity is beyond 3.0.
Okay, so are you saying that government got it wrong in describing this as a luxury vehicle?
I wouldn't say they got it wrong. I would have said much more in terms of the parameters of what defines luxury should have been added to it.
But they have given an operational, if I may call it that, an operational definition for themselves that if it's 3.0 and above, that's a luxury to us, and you're going to pay tax on that.
That's for me. That's a bit challenging. And just before I came on here, we were on the Spur Morning Show and we spoke to Dr. Anthony Akotose, Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, and he spoke about the environmental considerations that went behind this. That the cars with bigger engine capacities tend to guzzle a bit more and then pollute a bit more. But if you look at it, if you look at some of the commercial vehicles in the country, don't they pollute a bit more than the
in fact, just
cars?
by observation, I would want to say yes.
Yes.
But is he suggesting in any way that money is going to be used to address the environmental issue?
No, we didn't get any indication.
All right, let me come to you, Doc. 10% is going to be charged on luxury vehicles, is it? So, I mean, if somebody is thinking of buying a luxury vehicle, then they have to think of paying this extra cost. Is it necessary at all?
I think it is necessary because government needs revenue, right? And what are the options available to government? The rich, based on this proposition, ought to pay more to support people at the bottom of the income pyramid. So I believe that if somebody is able to buy a Rolls Royce, for example, 1,000 Ghana cedis payment in roadworthy or 2,000 is chicken feed, really. So I mean, these are issues we need to deal with. I don't think it is too much to ask, if you ask me, because in terms of fuel consumption, for example, these cars, somebody will say, but I can buy the fuel. But buying the fuel, the fact that you are buying the fuel does not mean that that's where it ends, really. You are consuming a bit more, right? And for example, with the bit of the subsidy in fuel, for example, it means that you are being cushioned. So if you are asked to pay a little bit more, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you have a problem, then sell the Rolls Royce and get a Toyota Corolla.
Would you agree with people who say this government is not as capitalist as it has been, or the NPP is not as capitalist as we've believed over time? Because some of these interventions really appear to be socialist.
Exactly. When you look at the ideological lines of our political parties, it's very interesting because, I mean, this is a party that is a property-owning, democracy-oriented, but it appears that now they are more shifted towards, what do we call it, more socialist ideals. And I cannot blame them much because, I mean, that is what sells, really. And it also tells us that as a people, as Ghanaians, we have grown. Electorates are demanding more from people they put in power. So regardless of your ideology, that is not what I'm in for. I want to see how that impacts in my livelihood. And I believe that has been the reason for the dramatic shift in in these things.
Northern, let's change the subject a bit and talk about the 35% income tax. That one is a big problem for many people. Can you just help us understand really what this means in terms of calculations?
Okay, so we'll go to the board and try and look at what this really means for us. But before we start that, don't forget that the GRA, in calculating income tax, they have what we call the graduation or graduated method that they use in the calculations. And so they have a way that they go about it. Let's say what they said, 10,000. So the formula is very simple. The first 261 Ghana cedis on whatever income that you are earning is free. So 261 is 0%. That is not charged. Then they come and they will take the next step, which is 70 Ghana cedis. All right? They write 70 Ghana cedis, and that is 5%. So they'll look at 5% of 70 Ghana cedis, and that will give you 4 cedis. And then they will move on to the next step, which is 100 Ghana cedis. So they pick another 100 Ghana cedis, and on that 100 Ghana cedis, they are looking at 10%. You understand? 10% of that will be what? 10 cedis. And then they will move on again to the next step, which will be, if they're looking at a figure around 2,810. So 2810, and there the percentage is a bit higher. That is 17.5. And when you look at the 17.5% on that, that will give you 492 Ghana cedis. So you have 492 Ghana cedis. And then there is another one which is anything exceeding 3,241. Anything exceeding that. So anything exceeding that would give you 25%. Okay? But now they're introducing another one, which is 35. So which means that now it ends at 35. Instead of initially, it's ending here.
25.
At 25. But when it was just from 0 to 25%, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I count it that way, you were looking at an effective tax rate of around 22. That was around 22.48, I guess, percent. But now, adding this 35 to it gives you a graduation, or I would say effective tax rate of 24.13%. That is how they go about these things.
Okay.
And so it means that clearly, if we are picking, let's say, a figure of probably around that 10,000, you are probably asked to pay an extra of 200 cedis.
Than you originally pay now.
Exactly, than you originally pay now.
Okay.
If you do so, because of how this is, even though initially people had that kind of school of thought that they thought it was a flat rate going to be slapped on those that 10,000, that was going to be crazy. I mean, that is something that nobody will accept, because it means that 10,000, I'm losing 3,500.
Okay. All right.
And nobody will want to do that.
Oh, thanks for the education.
Yeah, GRA is just going to use the method that they use. They just introduce 35 into it, and so you move it, and then it gives you what you are looking for.
All right. So if you were worried that you were going to lose about 3,500 of your 10,000 salary, then Northern has explained to us. So basically, Northern, what you're saying is that if someone is watching us and they earn about 250 cedis, they get their sum.
Full money is given you. You are not taxed at all. Anybody below that 261, from 0 to 261, you don't pay tax. You are not taxed income tax. But when you go above it, that is when they begin to do the calculations.
Wow, it's interesting. Just put everything in perspective, Doc. So you've spoken about the luxury vehicle. You think that's a good one. Do you think this is good as well?
I would say it's not bad. It's okay. It's just asking the very privileged people in society to contribute a little more towards our development. I think it's okay. And to chip in a bit on the luxury vehicle issue, we know that our economy is dominated by the informal sector. And a lot of people in the informal sector do not pay income taxes, right? So, I mean, in one way or the other, the vehicle tax is a way that people in the informal sector would also contribute towards, I mean, the national budget, i.e. the income that we are trying to
Can you
generate.
explain how?
How? Because, for example, I mean, if I own a shop in Makola, for instance, you pay VAT and all, but their direct profits that they make, those ones are not taxable, right? A lot of it go under the radar. We say that most of the money in the system is in the market, really. When such people make those monies, we don't get to charge direct income tax because we don't know. We don't right? We hope covered. That the tax identification system would try in a way to rope in a lot of these people. But if they go under the radar and they use it to buy a luxury car, then you get to pay something towards our development.
But how many people at Makola or in the informal sector?
You won't be surprised.
No, I know Makola. For instance, yes, I know, but
on
with
Sundays,
the informal sector,
you will be surprised. I mean, I will not say that everybody in the informal sector is rich, but a lot of and here I'm talking about the entrepreneurial group within the informal sector.
Okay.
I am not talking about the own account workers who are selling stuff on their own small shops and all, but they are entrepreneurs, people employing people within the informal sector.
Who are evading tax.
Exactly.
Okay, Philip. Now, for many, this is, or all these tax that we are seeing and innovative ways to get revenue is as a result of pressure coming from one, free senior high school, and also to fund the National Health Insurance Authority. For many, especially with free SHS, they've argued that, look, I can pay for my ward, just allow me to do it. And in fact, some other economists have agreed that why don't you allow those who can pay for their wards do so, so you lessen the pressure on you as government. Now, those same people who may be willing to pay the money, now you are taxing them because they own luxury vehicles, and they think it's quite unfair.
Okay, so I was saying this on the Super Morning Show, and Dr. Anthony Okotose also alluded to this. These measures are short-term, stopgap measures. And in the presentation of the mid-year review, the finance minister mentioned the medium-term revenue framework, which which they are currently putting together. That's what he said in the budget review. And they're going to come out with a way that going forward in the fiscal year of 2019, 2020, 2021, they are going to find a coordinated framework of how we can grow revenues long term. So it's not yet out. I think we should, I'm eagerly looking forward to it, to see how especially the informal sector that Doctor is mentioning is going to feed into this, so that going forward, we don't have these stopgap measures where we have problems and then we come with one or two taxes to fill it, and then we go forward in a few years and realize that we have more expenditures, more burdens, because as time goes on, your expenditures will by all means increase. So you need to look for sustainable and long-term ways to grow revenues. And the finance minister has said this in the media review, that they will come out with a very clean framework that would show us what exactly they want to do with regards to raising revenue.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady. This is very interesting. I wish it wouldn't end, but we have to. Thank you so much. Dr. Chumisi Bafo is a lecturer at the University of Ghana, and Philip Nyamfuri and Norvan Akwaheford are my colleagues here with Joy Business, just helping us understand some of the issues that came up from yesterday's presentation of the mid-year budget review.